Tuga. Here we go. To the Tuga, the Everything Portuguese Soccer podcast by the fans for the fans. Mitch, Christian, I'm Kevin. Thank you all for tuning in. Very special broadcast, 2 in 1 week, and there's a very special reason for that because Portugal finally got it done. It wasn't easy, but they never do it easy. They always do it the hard way. Next stop, Qatar. Portugal has qualified for the 2022 FIFA World Cup. A big 2-0 win over North Macedonia. 2 goals by Bruno Fernandes. And we'll have a lot to talk about that as well. But boys, Portugal, they got it done. We knew that North Macedonia was going to play defensive. We knew that it was going to be a tight, boring game. But Portugal, they cracked through at about the 30th minute. And from there, the rest was history. What did you guys think?
Yeah, we talked a lot about it last podcast. I said scoring early would be a huge benefit. Macedonia, excuse me. It's been a long day. Macedonia has a team where they strive on holding in into these games, flashing on to that 0-0 and scoring off a set piece or a free kick or a wonder goal like they did against Italy. Once you score early, it forces them to open up. And then, being Portugal with all the talent we have, we can definitely exploit that. Some players stepping up. I thought Jota had a great game. Bruno Fernandes, lots of people, and rightfully so, have been, asking a lot of questions about Bruno Fernandes. And then he's even not started a few games. And the talent that he has, I even said it last podcast, your superstars have to play. And he came out. He had a rough start. Let's call it how it is. He missed a few passes, but once he got his goal, I think he loosened up and he played well. Also, the addition of Pep. Oh, my God, we're going to be talking a lot about Pep today. What a game he had. The difference this man came and gave to our team at 39 years old. Wow. And then one more thing before I let Mitch take the mic here. I got to say how it is, man. I'm known for, if I was talking about Danilo last game and I was criticizing him a lot. And I'm going to own up to it, man. He had a great, great game. He was playing really well from the back. Honestly, overall, Pep and Danilo, great games. What do you think, Mitch?
Yeah, man. There's a lot of, different things that we saw from this game. Just, Cancelo came back. Danilo was a bit of a surprise start. And I think we were all cursing that from as soon as the lineups were announced. We were all kind of cursing that. But, the one thing I'm going to say, and this is critical to kind of this podcast, and as much as we will call out Fernandes for the horrible, shitty mistakes that he's made, and has is really the reason why we were in this kind of predicament in the first place. We also have to kind of praise when he makes the right decisions, and Danilo was a decision that you and I talked about wasn't the right decision because we felt somebody like a Gonçalo Inácio needed to be there with Pep rather than Font, because Font, we saw him a little bit exposed speed-wise against Turkey. And, it was just something that we didn't think it was worth risking playing Font against Macedonia just because of that speed. The one thing that I think they got right with Danilo is I think they really analyzed very carefully how Macedonia played against Italy, which was they did a lot of the dump and chase. They tried a lot of the long ball game and just kind of dump something into the opponent's half and hope for a lucky bounce or hope for a break, hope for their holding players to latch on and then kind of hold the ball, wait for the other players to kind of run on and kind of catch the team a little bit on the counter in that sense. So to that point, I think when you analyze that part of Macedonia's game, I think that's where Fernandes and his coaching team saw the implementation of Danilo, because he won almost every single aerial ball that Macedonia put into our half. I don't know if you remember, there was even one instance he fucking scissored the ball behind the Macedonian player's back. Like, he was winning every single aerial ball. Ele foi primeiro ao choque, sempre. Like he was that player. So again, at first, of course, I was like, oh my God, Danilo. But then as the game progressed, I mean, let's call a spade, man. And this is no disrespect to Macedonia. I think I could have played at center back and looked good. But the point being that, Danilo's, there was a tactical reason why Danilo played where he played, and I think that was utilized very well. What did you think of the midfield, particularly?
Yes, honestly, we talked about it a lot last podcast. I wouldn't switch up anything in that midfield.
Yeah.
I feel like against Turkey, it was really good. One of the best midfields we've seen in a long time. Also, adding on to what you were saying about Danilo, I think Danilo also played that role because he is naturally a CDM. And I feel like with Macedonia, since we've been pressing him so much, although he is a center back and he is back there, he pushes up almost into a CDM role. So it's like a hybrid formation. So when we're attacking, he moves up, Pep stays back. He's the more conservative defenseman. And he was allowed to, push higher up and distribute the ball, which was a great tactic on Fernand Sanch. Speaking of Fernand Sanch, I don't know if you lit a candle in Fatima or something, or if it's common tradition that they kneel that whole pathway the whole way. But man, this guy has 9 lives, and you know what? Went through a playoff again, and good on him. We talked about a lot last podcast that it was a win-win almost for us. We're going to Qatar, or if we lose, Fernand Sanch's gone, so he lives another day. But all credit to him. He did really well, and he, we got to give credit where credit's due.
There's a reason why Fernand Sanch, he is a proven winner with Portugal. I mean, honestly, we can bash him and criticize a lot of those decisions, but at the end of the day, he's won us a European Championship, won us a UEFA Nations League title, and has guided Portugal now to 2 World Cups. Now, got to get the job done. And we'll talk a little bit about Fernand Sanch a little bit later on because I certainly have a point that I want to make there too. But the one thing that I thought was really interesting and actually really impressive, we talked a little bit about it before in the past, how we want to see more than just Cristiano Ronaldo here. And if you take a look, those 2 playoff games against Turkey and North Macedonia, Ronaldo's not even on the score sheet. And to me, that's the biggest win here. It's not necessarily getting to the World Cup. It's the fact that everyone else stepped up and got the job done. That speaks volumes. And, there's one picture, after Bruno Fernandes' second goal, Cristiano Ronaldo's kind of like right behind him. And when I saw that picture, I just started thinking 2004. And that's all I kept thinking about, the passing of the guard. This is this moment for this generation where it's going to be the end of an era come November, but it's the beginning of a new chapter. And you're starting to see that. And that is what is really exciting about this win.
Yeah, I agree. I think we both said that prior to this game that the key was going to be the other superstars on this team stepping up, and I think that was to Kev's point. It was one of the most exciting things about these 2 games was that it really feels like the key players, the Bernardo Silvas, the Diogo Jotas, the Bruno Fernandes. They said, you know what, Ronaldo, you've stepped in and you've put this country, you've put this seleção, you've put this team on your back so many times. We got you. Let us put you on our back and let us carry you to Qatar. And that's almost the feeling that you got, man. And it was a really nice thing to see, man, because you really did, Bruno Fernandes, even though, I'll be the first to say he didn't have a very good, probably first 30 minutes prior to his goal. But, Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes was clinical. Even though he might not have had the best game, he was clinical when he needed to be. He put the ball in the back of the net and he finished. And that's all we can ask from him. Guys like Bernardo Silva, Diogo Jota was again a massive threat. Like all of the players kind of did their role and stepped up in a big way.
For sure. As we've been watching Cristiano Ronaldo throughout the years, he's bailed us out plenty of times. there's multiple highlights of his whole career. He's been doing that. But one thing that he's known for is switching up his game and adjusting his game. When he was a young kid, he was a very flashy, like to hog the ball, very fast winger, and then he sort of evolved into attacking winger, and then now maybe in his early 30s, he was more of a striker, clinical scorer. That's why after 30, he scored a crazy amount of goals. But right now, believe it or not, I think he's going through his last transition where I don't know if you guys found this or been noticing this. He's not he's less selfish now. He's letting Bernardo and Bruno take more free kicks. Even in one of the corners, a lot of people might have missed this, but I didn't. When he was pressed up on a corner kick, he was telling one of the other players to pass the ball to Jota because he was open. Whereas before he would want it all himself. I feel like these last two games, correct me if I'm wrong, the first one he didn't have a good game, but I feel like he's adjusting his game and he's being more of a team player and he's allowing other people, to grow into the national team. And I think it's just going to benefit us.
And if he continues to do that, you're right. That's how you prolong your career with a national team, right? When you're starting to slow down a little bit. I mean, he's a freak of nature. But as you start to slow down a little bit, you need to be able to concede a little bit more, and that's what he's doing. So that is really good to see. I think the one question that I have now kind of going forward is, what happens in between the pipes now come November? Like, who's your go-to goaltender in Qatar? Mitch is already shaking his head.
Diogo Costa all day.
He is the guy. He solidified it.
He's the guy.
I'll tell you why, and I think we were all questioning this. But what I saw from Diogo Costa in these two games was his uncanny ability to handle the ball with his feet and to take not only to handle the ball with his feet, but even take balls down in the air. It is such, and anybody who's played the game knows this, it is such an asset to have a keeper who is that comfortable with the ball at his feet. And I think we've all played with keepers who we knew, and I was a defender, so like I can speak to this. Like as a defender, it's so different when you have a keeper that you feel comfortable playing the ball back to versus a guy who you just don't feel confident, and it's almost a pretty every time you play the ball back to him. I think we've all played with keepers that we know who we can and who we can't. And when you have a keeper that's that confident with his feet, like I said in the last podcast, it's like an extra man, it's like an extra sweeper back there, and it's such a huge asset, and it's a very rare find. Not only is he good between the posts, again, he wasn't tremendously tested as a shot stopper. In both games, even crosswise, there wasn't a ton of crosses for him to be dealing with. But I mean, I think we've seen enough of him in Port to know that he's decent between the sticks as well. But I just think that asset of being able to handle the ball with his feet the way that he does, oh my goodness, I think that's a tremendous asset. And I think almost on that basis alone, he's the starter all day.
Yeah, like they say in Portugal, é guarda-redes moderno, a modern goalie. Because, like I'm going to give you an example. Obviously, I'm 31 years old. I don't play high-level soccer. I work construction. But I went to the stadium with Chris, one of my good friends, Chris. Went to go kick the ball around, and there's like some Edmonton FC players there. Like they're a little bit younger, but we just played against them, and one of the goalies was like that. He was really good with his feet, and when we were trying to run and get the ball back, it was like having another sweeper. Man, you pass the ball back, you go, he gives you a little shift, pass it to their side. It just adds that little bit more to your team. Mm-hmm. And not only that, this guy has been putting in big, long balls to like Bernardo, and he can even get an assist. I wouldn't be surprised. That addition is so important in today's day and age. Like Pep Guardiola, I regard as the best manager in the world. He only wants goalies that can play with their feet. That's the main reason why Ederson's there. Yeah. So it's definitely a big addition. I don't think unless something crazy happens, I think he's the guy.
I think what's going to be interesting is the fact that the World Cup this year is going to be played in November, right? So normally the World Cup is played in June. So it's at the end of the season, players are tired. Some players are carrying injury, whatever. You're going November. this is starting to be peak time for players. So it's going to be really interesting to see if some of these players end up earning a starting spot over someone else. Like if Zessa is having a hell of a year with Wolves to start the season, do you not give him some sort of consideration? Like, and this goes for everyone, not just goaltending. I think this is going to be the interesting tactician side that we need to see from Fernand Sanch and from every coach going into the World Cup is now you are managing players that are going to be rising up to their peak form in the season. So that's going to make all the difference. So with that being said, Fernand Sanch, we can all agree that he got it right in these two playoff games, and he did a lot of the right decisions and got the job done. Mission accomplished. The one thing that concerns me a little bit about Fernand Sanch, and Lord knows I don't dislike him as much as some people do, aka Christian, but is the fact that against Turkey, against North Macedonia, everyone looked at it as, yeah, Portugal should win this game. Like Portugal favorites. Portugal, though, has a tendency, at least under Fernand Sanch, that when they go up against higher end competition, so let's say it was in Italy, or let's say it'll be Germany in the World Cup or whatever, or Holland, they have a tendency to almost, look down at themselves in a way. Like they almost, we're not as good, so we're going to play ultra defensive, right? They're almost scared to go on the attack. And like it kind of bit us at Euro. And that's the part. Has Fernand Sanch learned from those mistakes? Will he be able to change the mindset with this national team going into Qatar in November?
Well, I think the big difference is going to be, and this was the difference before the Euro, this was the difference prior to the qualifying, was that we always said Portugal did not have an identity. We didn't know who we were as a team. Fernand Sanch didn't know how to get the best out of such a talented group of players. That was always the issue. That was the issue when we went into the Euro. That was the issue going into qualifying. It was always a crapshoot as to who he was going to start, how he was going to play, and nobody really knew their roles, and it was constantly changing, and he was always playing with Trinks and William and Danilo in the midfield. What I feel we got out of these two games, if obviously aside from the two wins, was I feel like Fernando Santos finally, he got the recipe right. That mix of, it's almost like he played a 4-2-3-1, where it was João Moutinho and Bernardo Silva in the middle of the park, Jota, Bruno Fernandes, and Otávio, and then Ronaldo up front. It was almost like a 4-2-3-1, and it was that mix that I think we finally got right. It just worked. And again, it was against Turkey and Macedonia, but to that point, we couldn't get the mix right versus teams like Serbia and Ireland, where we could actually really take control of the game and be clinical. So I think, if nothing else, to Kevin's point, what he's talking about, I think if we go into the World Cup and we end up playing bigger teams, and we're going to see this in June because we're going to play Spain June 2nd. That's our next game for the Nations League, and that's going to be a good test to see how we come out. If we can build on some confidence from not only these two games, but capitalize on the little bit of chemistry that we built in these two games and continue that, and it's really going to, if Fernand Sanch goes with the same lineup against Spain, which I think we should absolutely play the same way against a team like Spain, we're going to see, because if we can play with that same level of confidence and with the same mix of players and have a good level of success against a team like Spain, I think it's just going to build on the team's confidence. And to what you're saying, Kev, I think it really comes when the players when the players kind of drop a level, it's because they're not confident, not in their own individual abilities, but in the team's abilities to go up against a team like a Germany or in England or Spain or in Italy or whatever. So I think as a team, if they start to kind of build off of these two games and the chemistry starts to build with this group of players with this type of substitutions that we were making, kind of very consistent, and it's almost becomes like a plug and play. I think that's where, as a collective, the confidence will grow. And if in themselves they start to form an identity, that's when we're going to be able to go up against Germany and England and teams like that. And we're going to have a much higher confidence level. And you're not going to see us drop to kind of this reactionary kind of playing, rather than, hey, we know our game. We're going to take our game to them. And it's not just this reactionary kind of scared tactic. It's take the game. We know who we are. Let them play to our strengths.
You know what? Great question.
So yeah, Kevin Gerald's here is making the point that I think we're kind of talking about here is, as soon as we play a half decent team, we're going to be playing with 2 defensive mids and real rigid tactics.
We're going to see what he comes out with against Spain.
You know what? That's definitely a great question, and that's what it comes down to. The reason why we've been so hard on Fernando Santos is because in those big games we come out with the Williams and Danilos. We adjust our game to other teams' games instead of it being vice versa.
Mm-hmm. And to that point, Christian, Ricky Ferreira chiming in, saying Fernando Santos has shown his progressive side of late, and that's good to see that our possession game has improved. Traditionally, our identity has been counterattacking, especially versus big teams. You guys are right. That's exactly my concern going into Qatar. But I mean, hey, if we play like we did in these last 2 games, then problem solved, I guess.
Yeah, so just touching up what I was just about to say is, if we go into this tournament and we do link up, because the potential matchup is Germany, a team like that, do we go back to William Danilo, or do we play this team? I don't think Portugal should switch completely switch their tactics and play scared. We should not have to adjust all the time and, be worried about them. They should be worried about us. I think going into these games, play the exact same lineup, obviously with the addition of, hopefully if he's healthy, Ruben Dias. And I think we can go, head-to-head with these guys. I think we can go head-to-head with pretty much anywhere in the world. 100%. I was reading some analytics and a lot of people's opinions online. They're saying maybe only France has a better, in terms of skill, obviously we qualified through a playoff group. In terms of skill, talented players, maybe only France has more than us. So that being said, we should play this exact same lineup, give or take 1 or 2 guys, instead of playing the William
and
Danilo.
It just goes to the strength of the team. We are a fast team. You've got quick players. You cannot have 2 deadweights like William or Danilo who just play at a different place. And man, I know we rag a lot on them. They are useful in certain situations. They are tactical weapons that you can, use in very particular instances. And I'm going to give you the example. Portugal versus Holland in the Nations League final. If you go watch, if anybody remembers that game, or if you have it recorded, if you go back and watch that game, Fernando Santos brilliantly implemented William in a way where he used William to high press, and it was so effective that it prevented Holland from being able to break out. And it was a tactical genius on Fernando Santos' part. You'd never seen William play that high up the field, but he used him in a way that it was so high press, and he's such a big body, and he knows his position so well. He's got a very high IQ, and he knows positionally where he needs to be to shut down lanes. His off the ball work rate is good, but he's just a slow player. The ball comes to his feet and the game just dies. Yeah. So I'm not saying he shouldn't be a part of this lesson. I'm not saying that there isn't specific situations or instances where he can be deployed tactically. I'm saying on the everyday starting 11, we need to have a quicker midfield, meaning João Moutinho is in there, or a player like him, either a Ruben Neves or even Mateus Nunes, someone to complement Bernardo Silva and Bruno Fernandes to pick up the pace and drive the game forward, and not just be it that dead weight in that holding midfield position. We don't need it unless it's for a tactical reason. If we're trying to shut down a game, like I say, there's tactical instances where you can deploy players like that. But on the everyday, we need a quicker midfield.
I'm going to have to disagree with you with William. I don't think on this national team you need both Danilo and William. Maybe for this particular playoff game with Ruben Dias being injured, of course, bring both of them. But in general, with a full healthy roster, I don't think with the players we have, he should be on our national team. I'm even sad that Palhinha is not there. I'd put Palhinha. I'd put Palhinha higher than William, just because he brings that lot more energy. He's a great ball winner and he's more direct. He's very direct. He can, much like we talked about. I know he's the goalie, but the Portuguese goalie, he can shoot the ball up and make an assist from nowhere. Palhinha is that guy. Also, guys like Matheus Nunes, you touched up on him. He's a great box to box, much like Renato Sanchez. I think when Renato Sanchez comes in, Ruben Dias come in, all these other attacking talents come in. Personally, although he is having a great season, I don't want both of them on there. Yeah. One of them, okay, yes, for sure, but they're both so similar. I don't think with this national team going into Qatar again, if everybody's healthy, I don't want him on this.
The fact of the matter is, if he's gonna go between William and Palhinha, he's gonna go who's in the best form
for sure,
club wise.
Sure.
That's just because he's not gonna bring them both. He's gonna bring whoever's in best form.
Yeah,
and that's going to be the advantage of the World Cup being played in November. So this Friday is the draw. It'll be at 10 o'clock in the morning, Edmonton time. It'll be available on TSN 1 and on TSN 1260 on radio. Of course, you can also watch it on FIFA.com online. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Let's take a look at the pots. I want you to look at the bottom of your screen. For those of you watching on our YouTube stream, for those listening on Spotify, we'll go through it with you. Pot 1, so that is where Portugal is in the first pot. They will be joined by Qatar, who's in there, of course, as the host. Brazil, Belgium, France, Argentina, England, Spain. So really top-notch competition, but already you can already see some of the key teams that will not be in pot number 1. So for Portugal, let's look at pot number 2. Who are you kind of looking at? The options are, there's 6 guaranteed so far. You've got the Netherlands, Germany, Denmark, Switzerland, Croatia, and Uruguay. USA and Mexico will almost certainly be there as well. Obviously, they're in action actually as we speak. Quick update on those scores. USA and Costa Rica scoreless, Mexico, El Salvador scoreless as well. Look, they're both going to qualify. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They will end up being in pot 2. So if you're Portugal, who do you want to avoid? Who would you be okay with here in pot 2?
I think Germany's had our number. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the height, the way they play. If they're more direct. I don't know if it's a psychological thing or all the above. They have our number. That's one team I would like to avoid. The Danes, they're playing really good right now. I don't know if you guys seen. I know it's a friendly, but they did beat Serbia on the weekend 3-0. Eriksson with the big goal. Shout out to him. He's come back from a lot. But yeah, Germany is the one team. I don't know if you guys agree that I'd like to avoid. Everybody else, I mean, I'd pick Portugal over all those other teams.
So before we get to you, Mitch, Kevin Gerald's chiming in saying he does not want to see Croatia, Germany, and Holland. Ricky chiming in as well, saying hopefully we get USA, Mexico, or Switzerland. Mitch, what do you say?
I'm indifferent. I honestly, guys, it's the World Cup. If we want to be the best team in the world, we got to beat the best at the end of the day. And I think there's benefits.
A Ric Flair comment there.
Well, there's benefits. I feel like there's benefits to sometimes catching big teams early on, because I think it automatically raises the intensity level of the team. I think you automatically get, if you're playing a big name team right out the gate, you're right away coming with a high intensity level, and you got to bring it straight out the gate. I would prefer not to play Germany just because, like you, there's just something about playing them. But everyone else in that pot, honestly, does not really concern me a whole lot. I think we can beat any of those teams on our game when we're playing well. I feel like we can beat any of those teams comfortably.
So to Mitch's point, I tend to agree. Portugal seems to just be naturally attracted to groups of death. I do find though that when we do, we play up to that level, and Portugal plays well. It's when they get into groups that you look at it on paper, oh yeah, this should be easy, this should be no problem, that they run into issues. So to that point, in some ways, I'd rather avoid the U.S. I'd rather avoid Mexico because Portugal's had their issues, especially with the U.S. 2002, 2014. Like in some ways, I'd want to avoid that. Now, with that being said, right now, you take a look at the Americans. They're weak. They are not the same team that they were a number of years ago. They are a very beatable team. They're in pot two simply because of the way the rankings are. Quite frankly, they could probably be in pot three where they probably deserve to be. Germany, not the same team, as dangerous as they have been in the past. So I'm actually not too worried about Germany. Denmark's the one team to me that there's such an enigma. Like they played so well at Euro. They have such dynamic energy. They're a team that I'd be a little worrisome playing against them. But other than that, I think Portugal matches up well against pretty much any team in this group.
Yeah, even the Dutch, we have the best history against the Dutch, man. Like how we feel about Germany, they must feel about Portugal. I can't remember the last time we lost them, even though we won the Nations League over them.
We beat them in 2004. We beat them in 2006. We beat them in 2012 at the Euro.
Yeah, we beat them
in the Nations League.
So we got their number.
Our friend, the American North Macedonian who tuned in last week saying congratulations to Portugal. Good luck at the World Cup. Hey, thanks very much. You guys had a heck of a performance. You guys certainly played as best as you could. There was 2,000 North Macedonian fans at the Estadio de Dragão making your country proud. So hold your heads up high. And hey, no matter what happens, you guys always have the fact that you beat the defending European champions in a World Cup playoff, and no one will ever be able to take that away from you guys. Rich chiming in saying Argentina coasted to the final because of an easy group in 2010. I'll take the easy street any day of the week. Avoid the big battles early. Big battles equals high intensity, fatigue, and resources. You're not wrong. You're certainly not wrong with that. It just seems Portugal trips up when it's an easy group. Just historically speaking, they tend to play better when they're up against it with some of these bigger teams. Again, I point to 2014 when Portugal really should have been out of that group.
Argentina coasted to the final, but they also choked in the final. And
well, absolutely,
because they were not war ready. They were not battle hardened.
Yeah, for sure. But you know what? I see both sides. Like even Croatia, they made it to the World Cup final. They got spanked by France. But I mean, once you're there, you're there. Anything can happen. Look at Macedonia with Italy. I'd rather just be there and at least
Greece,
have
Portugal, man.
Yeah, and especially
tons of examples.
Yeah, especially with guys like Cristiano Ronaldo or these game breakers, fill in the blanks. And they have a plus your chance against anybody. Yeah. Again, shout out to the Macedonian fan. Yeah. We have nothing but respect for you guys. You won the world's heart. Honestly, shout out. Thank you for listening. And yeah, if it was, like I said, if it was anybody other than Portugal and Canada, I'll be 100% rooting for you guys. So
let's move on to pot three. We've got Senegal, Iran, Japan, Morocco, Serbia, Poland, South Korea. Those are the guaranteed teams. Canada could be in pot three, which would be just a remarkable turnaround for this program. They need a win or a draw tonight against Panama in the 11th minute. That game still score. Sorry, they need a win. I don't think a draw would get them into this. So they need to.
I could be wrong. I think it was also a draw, but I could be wrong. You'd know better.
Yeah,
I think it was draw or win.
We'd have to actually. You know what? I have it here. A draw. No, they need to win. A draw or a loss against Panama and Tunisia goes into pot three. So Canada needs a win against Panama.
I think that was to win their group. I think that's what it was, to win their bracket. I think that's what it was. My misconception was.
So right now, scoreless, Canada, Panama. So they need to get on that score sheet in order to get to pot three. So, So Senegal. I've got to say though, with Senegal, it is. I don't like to say that a team shouldn't be in the World Cup, but after the garbage that their fans did against
lasers.
Egypt with the lasers. They were throwing stuff at the players before the game, but to clearly the lasers pointed at the players' faces. You saw it with Mo Salah going into the penalty kicks. How the referee allowed that to continue is beyond me. It's scandalous, quite frankly. It's an embarrassment to the sport. So for that, I really hope that Senegal goes 0-3 in the World Cup. To be perfectly honest, but anyways, taking a look at this group, who do you
Swap 'em
want?
out with
Who do you
Russia.
want to avoid?
You know what? I want Serbia really bad after what happened. How they acted after they won. I mean, they were cheering and stuff, but like Mitrovic was drinking Coca-Cola in our stadium. That drove me, really. I was really pissed, and that was a shot at Cristiano Ronaldo where he was, saying drink water over Coca-Cola. I mean, I want them. I know Portugal's a better national team to them. They are good. They're a dark horse for sure. They have like Vlahovic and they have Tadic and we talked a lot about them going into that game. They're a good team, but I would really like to. I'd like redemption. And you know what? Given that goal that was disallowed, that's not so much Serbia's fault, but that goal, that controversy, we should have been automatically in regardless.
Yeah.
I'd want them, and just show them who's boss.
I agree with you. Or Canada. I
You want Canada?
I think it'd be really cool to see Portugal, Canada.
I don't think I'd want
No.
it. I mean, it would be cool, but I don't know. Like, I
No.
want Canada to do well, but
No, I don't want Canada at all.
yeah.
Like I said, if it's Canada, I hope then it's the very first matchup, and if it's a draw, it's a draw. But I don't want
What
it to
if
come
it's
down
knockout? Like whoever.
I'll be crying. I'll be crying.
Oh man,
I don't
come
want
on,
it,
man.
I don't want it. I want to see them both do well. I want to see them both do. I mean, obviously Portugal is my number one, but I want to see Canada do well. I do think like Portugal just, they normally play well against like Morocco. We've played well against Poland. South Korea we would do fine with. Obviously Canada, it is what it is. Iran's always that weird team that you never know how that's going to go. So it's just honestly, all of these teams are beatable for Portugal. It should be absolutely no issue.
And it's top three
whatsoever.
go through again, right? Our best third place team?
No, I think it's just top two in each group. I don't think there's a third place team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
because there's
right.
32 teams, right? So 32 teams, you top two, you get to the 16.
Okay.
You get to round of 16 right away,
Sweet.
right?
Okay, let's do this.
It'll be different. Kevin Gerald saying no Canada. We want them both to progress. I 100% agree with you, my friend. It's going to be different in 2026 when the World Cup expands to 48 teams. So then you'll have a round of 32, I guess, or whatever, and then progress from there. But no, in this World Cup, it should just be the top two teams advance, no third place teams. So you got to get the job done,
Okay. Perfect.
which will be interesting. Pot 4, we've got Cameroon, Ecuador, Saudi Arabia, and Ghana. Those are confirmed. Tunisia, again, would be in pot 4 if Canada draws or loses against Panama tonight. Again, I'll just pull up again the score here. It's scoreless again. By the way, if anyone's watching right now, spoiler alert. And then, and of course, if there's a draw or loss, then Canada goes into that group. There's also the 2 World Cup playoff results, the intercontinental playoffs, and then the final UEFA spot, which would either be Wales, Scotland, or Ukraine. I'm going to say right off the bat here, the one team that I would not want to face would be a Wales if they advance, because they are a team that, hey, with Gareth Bale, you just never underestimate him, right? It's just one of those teams that I would not want to play against him. The rest, again, it is what it is. The African teams are always a little unpredictable. It can be dangerous. But I think like with Ecuador, if Peru gets in there, Australia, it doesn't really matter. New Zealand certainly won't get in there. Well, I mean, they could. They'd be playing against likely Costa Rica in their intercontinental, so they could pull it out. So it'll be interesting. I think Costa Rica or New Zealand, that would be a good matchup for Portugal. Easy win there, in my opinion.
I'd want Saudi Arabia. I think that I don't know. I don't think that they have enough quality to be.
Okay.
I want to play them. Yeah.
You want to play Saudi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's committed, man. Unless they buy out our players. I know Ronaldo's there a lot, but But in terms of soccer, yeah, I don't want to play them. I think it's almost an easy win.
I'm indifferent, man. I'll take anybody.
I like the confidence,
Bring 'em
man.
on, man. Ah.
You know what it is? It's the hat. It's the hat. And you know what? Kevin's listening right now. He's been commenting a lot. He messed up our sporting order, right? I mean, you're getting exposed. I was supposed to get that hat. Hey, you were supposed to, order it to Canada, but no, you did a delivery to the stadium, and now they're sold out, man. So thanks. That hat adds knowledge and confidence, right? Anyways,
So there's an online simulator where you can. I don't know what I just did here. There's an online simulator where you could look and go through the World Cup groups. So I just did it right now, just for the sake of entertainment. And based on this simulation, Group A would have Qatar, the Netherlands, Poland, and Canada. So that would be interesting group for Canada, Portugal, Uruguay, Iran, and Costa Rica or New Zealand. So that would be a pretty interesting group for Portugal.
I'd be fine with that. Honestly, I will say something, guys, and this is one thing. Portugal historically has never done well in World Cups outside of Europe. So Mexico in '86, we didn't get through the group stage. South Korea and Japan in 2002, we did not get through the group stage. I believe it was South Africa. We went out in the round of 16, and then Brazil, we didn't make it through the group stage. So anytime we've played in a World Cup outside of Europe, historically, we've never done well. So I just hope that is not a foreshadowing of things to come in Qatar.
I mean, Qatar's close to Europe. So, I mean, maybe it'll still count.
Yeah. I'm also reading some of the comments. Kevin was saying that there's an exciting prospect that Sporting bought. We actually stole them from Liverpool. I don't know if you guys heard about him. I'm going to butcher his name. It is Issa Haku. And he was supposed to go to Liverpool, and everything was almost done. And then I don't know what happened. Something went wrong with the negotiations, and Sporting swooped him up. He's ineligible to play because we didn't sign him in time, but he's going to be there next year. No, he's from Ghana.
Oh, he's from Ghana.
He's from Ghana, so it'll be cool to link up with them for sure.
So Ricky makes a good point here. We've had to qualify 3 of the last 4 cups through playoffs. We always do it the hard way. You're 100%. And same thing look, when we won Euro 2016, we did it the hard way. Like, we got through by the skin of our teeth, with that 3rd place finish. And then, granted, we did end up getting an easier side of the playoff draw for sure. But look, in these tournaments, there really are no easy games, right? A lot of these teams are there for a reason. So, it's just, you got to get the job done.
I wanted to add on to what Mitch was saying. Yeah, usually in World Cups in general, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a little bit bad luck, but it seems like for the most part, maybe other than 2006, every time we go into the World Cup, either like Ronaldo was hurt, one of them, or we're not primed up. We're like in between a shift in our national team. Like we had Raul Meireles and players like that, and there was like sort of a shift. I don't know what it is going into these last World Cups. We've sort of just been in an in-between stage, and it's almost like we're more up for the Euro. But I think this next World Cup, we're going to be a lot more, ready. Again, bar no injuries, because we've been, having a lot of injuries. I think this World Cup, we're going to be going in really good. A lot of players coming up. A lot exciting. Of that's very exciting.
Because they're going to be in peak form. It is going to be a different situation. But hey, even if there are injuries, look, that game against Turkey, there were a lot of, between injuries and suspensions, there was, and COVID, there was, we had our doubts with Portugal, and they still pulled it out. And that speaks volumes about the belief in that system, the fact that Fernand Sanch got it right.
And depth. We have lots of depth.
And depth, absolutely.
I'll be excited if we see in these next few Nations League games, Fernand Sanch go in with the same attacking, progressive mindset as he did these last 2 games. If we go into these Nations League games against Spain and stuff, and he goes back to crappy tactics and Danilo and William in the midfield and all that bullshit, I will go right back onto the Fernando Sanch roast train.
100%.
Because it's going to be more of the same. And I just hope I'm wrong. I hope this was a turning point for Fernando Santos. But that's gonna a big tell is gonna be how he approaches these next few games in the Nations League against some pretty decent teams to see how whether or not he's kind of evolved his mindset.
What do you think of that remedy? Electrolytes with aguardente. Is that what Gatorade? Instead of a Shadinho, you know what Shadinho is? It's coffee.
Yeah.
We had some at Rich's house. And put a little bit of Gatorade to wake him up. I think you're onto something, Rick.
I love it. Kevin Geralds makes a really good point here too. We need to start giving young center backs more minutes to get them ready. Jaló and Gonçalo Inácio, for example, Font and Pep aren't getting any younger. You're 100% right. Look, this is the last tournament for Pep. I'm fairly confident in saying that. I think it's going to be the last tournament for a lot of players. Well, for a few players anyways. And
you know what,
you're right.
The way Pep played against
Incredible.
Macedonia, man, but
incredible.
What are we talking about? 39 years old. This guy was a beast, man.
He's really good.
And he doesn't look like he's slowing down, man.
No, he looks like he's in shape, man. He's in better shape than Ron almost.
Yeah, but to Kev's point, you need to begin that transition because you don't want to end up in a situation where if Pep goes down, or wasn't it against Belgium that Pep didn't play against Belgium, right? He was carded out, wasn't he? Yeah. So I mean, again, in those situations, you want to be able to have that confidence that there's someone in there that can get the job done, and that's why I agree. You do need to start experimenting a little bit and start looking into that next, what the next step is, the next chapter in that position, because that's going to be key.
I think Nations League is going to be the best time for that.
Yeah.
He already started Nuno Mendes. I felt like he had a great game. There was one play that he sort of messed up. I don't think it was that big of a deal. Ronaldo thought he was on the left, but he was pushing up. He was making around his
I
rock.
know exactly which one.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I thought he had a really good
experience, man.
Just lack of experience. But other than that, I think he had a fantastic game. Really good. He's 19 years old. I think, like Kevin said, maybe Inácio or Jaló coming in would do wonders. I think Nations League would be the time for that, for sure.
So we go into Friday, the World Cup draw. Final thoughts before the draw is made.
Yeah, we either pray to Our Lady of Fatima. I think it's been working for Fernando Santos. Maybe light a candle and see what happens, man.
Yeah, man. I'm honestly indifferent. There's nobody that I'm necessarily scared of or wanting to avoid. I'm whatever.
You know what though? Whoever. Sometimes these brackets, like look at Croatia. I know you were talking about maybe it's good to play some good teams, but sometimes if you got the luck of the draw, almost like we had in 2014 when we won the Euro. If you have a good route to the final, anything can happen, man. So not so much the group stage, but it comes out in the knockout stages. If we have a favorable bracket, I mean, I don't want easy street like crazy easy street, but if we have a favorable path, winnable games, we can get to that final. Who knows? Also, one more question before we wrap up: who is more likely to win the World Cup, Cristiano Ronaldo or Leonel Messi? This could potentially be their last dance.
I mean, the way Argentina's been playing, I mean, Argentina potentially, and I'm not trying to talk bad about Portugal, but Argentina's just playing extremely well lately, but they seem to always kind of choke in the big tournaments. So we'll have to see. And again, it comes down to not only the draw, but also the groups that you are put into, because then you start to see those playoff matchups as well, right? So
yeah, for sure.
There's two things you need to look for: is the draw itself, the group that you're put into, and then the actual group that you're in, lettered wise, and see where you go. By the way, Mexico just went up 1-0 over El Salvador. Canada, Panama still scoreless. I did another simulation here, guys. This one would be interesting. Qatar, Switzerland, Senegal, and Canada would be in a group.
You're not the only person that got Canada. Lots of people doing simulators pulling Canada a lot.
Portugal, Mexico, Morocco, Australia. So that would be, I would say that would be a very winnable group for Portugal if that was the case.
You know what? I'm going to go bold. I'm going to say if Portugal gets Argentina knockout stage, Portugal's going to win it. Oof. I'm going to go bold. You heard it here first, all right?
You heard it here first.
No, the best setup would need to be a final.
Yeah.
Argentina, Portugal World Cup final, Messi,
The GOAT
versus
debate.
Ronaldo, the battle of the GOATs. The
battle of the
that would be the setup for this
That
World
would
Cup.
And they both get injured in the 5th minute, much like Euro 2016, and they don't even play. And then it'll be a little moth that's Zebu sending a sign. And then, or maybe it'll be a little bit of like the white dust on the soccer field will be Diego Maradona coming to Leonel Messi. So.
I'm gonna go
The white
with
dust,
Leonel
yeah.
Messi retiring again.
On the field.
Leonel Messi retiring again in tears. Okay, that's
Yeah.
what's gonna go with. And Ronaldo lifting his first and last World Cup.
Well, let's hope. The draw is Friday, 10 o'clock in the morning. Again, that's Mountain Standard Time. Again, you can watch it on TSN. Tune into TSN 1260 or watch it online at FIFA.com. Mitch, Christian, I'm Kevin. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will be back here at some point to talk about the World Cup draw, start making those predictions, start looking at the path to the final, which oddly enough would be a couple of days before Mitch's birthday. So it could be a very good Christmas and a good birthday present for Mitch. So again, Mitch, Christian, I'm Kevin. Thanks for watching Tudo Tuga, the Everything Portuguese Soccer podcast. Have a wonderful night.
Força Portugal, caralho!
Ciao, guys.